All right, we're back. Episode 4, back in action. Kicking off with a couple hot questions. And you know what's something, too, I just thought about. So, quick shout out. I went to Ohio Northern women's soccer game yesterday for their championship game. They got a big dub. It was awesome. Good to see like a homecoming for me. I saw a lot of former athletes and coaches and things. And yeah, but uh, why I brought this up was I had a former athlete. I was explaining to them that I'm working at a private facility in Columbus now, and she's like, "Oh, that's cool. I worked out at another facility in Columbus in high school, and we were talking about it." And I was like, "Oh, I might know who that coach is. Like, who is your coach?" And she's like, "Oh, I have no idea. Like, I don't even know the guy's name." And I that like struck me as like, "Oh shit!" Like, I didn't even think like so that whatever that means is that person just didn't, in my eyes, didn't leave like a
A
big
lasting
impact.
impression. Yeah.
Yes, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, like I really hope in 5 years, like these my former athletes are going to be like, oh yeah, like Coach Luke from Donskov, from the Spot, from Ohio Northern, from wherever, right? Like I just think like man, I really am like, did I really make an impact on these people? I kind of like it threw me for a loop. I don't know. You got any thoughts on any of that over
I,
there?
I do. We were coaching at our gym that we met at, and I think this was before you had come on, but it was myself and another coach. And this athlete goes up to the coach that I was working with at the time, and goes, so and so gave me a modification for this last time I was in. And the coach goes to the athlete, well, what was the modification? He goes, I don't remember. And he goes, who was the coach? And the coach points at me and he goes, and what's that coach's name? And he goes, again, for the kid didn't know. To the people listening, this was the first week or two that I had worked with the team. It's not like we had a long tenure together. We
Yeah,
just got started. But the fact that there's 15 to 20 of these kids running around, there's two coaches, and you don't know that coach's name. Uh, my coworker at the time goes, well, why don't you go up and ask him? Ask him what his name is. Ask him
yeah,
what the modification was. Talk to him. And I mean, that's intimidating for any kid, right? But the kid very politely comes up and goes, "Hey, coach, what's your name?" And I told him, and we worked through the modification. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Some athletes are introverts, and that's one. That's fine. That's how some people are, and other times, yeah, to your point, maybe the coach just didn't leave a lasting impression or was just all about business. Again, I think that's why you and I have
yeah,
balanced each other out really well. Some coaches just don't rub elbows as smoothly as other coaches. That's just a reality. I mean, it is an emotional labor. It's a job where the sociable people really thrive and are better able to make that lasting impact to build those bridges. So yeah, it's just a testament to the I don't know that athlete and coach's time together is that's a bummer. That's a bummer. That's unfortunate.
yeah. It was just interesting. It just kind of threw me for a loop, and I was like, man, like I never want to be in that position where I come back somewhere and like somebody doesn't know who I am, or and that happens with time, right? Like you go to like you if you're gone long enough, people won't know who you are, but like hopefully I mean, I know all the players' names that I still worked with, and like they all had an impact on me. So hopefully, I had the same impact on them. But
Yeah. I mean, all
yeah,
you can
man.
do is bring your best self each and every time and hope that sticks.
Yeah,
But speaking of former athletes or former clients, we had a couple of
yeah,
questions in, I think, from people that you either know or have gotten to work with. You want me to lead off with our
yeah. Lead
questions?
off with the first one. Yeah, go for it.
So let me know if I'm misspeaking because I think the question came into you. But the idea is, as a collegiate athlete, should we work out in a hungover state? Point
And
blank, period of the
yeah,
story. Meaning, if I have a practice Saturday or Sunday morning and I go out and get blitzed and come in, like, how do I tackle this workout? And we talked a little bit about it prior to kicking off here, but I'll let you lead off with your thoughts and how you look into that.
yeah. So this was a big. I wouldn't say problem, but it was something that was happening frequently with a couple of the teams where I would work with them on Sundays after a Saturday game or whatever.
Not pointing any fingers here, not calling anyone out.
so, whoever, yeah, exactly, right. But I was working with them, and they always show up hungover, and a lot of them were like forced to show up on Sundays, and this was one of their training days. And for me, I was getting upset because in my eyes, we can't get quality work done when you are impaired. Like you're coming in, some of them are still like smelling of it, So it's like one of those things where sleep was crap, probably ate crap, you definitely drank crap, right? And then you show up and we're trying to like elicit like real change and try to like put weight on their back or in their hands and load that and try to like really get something meaningful from it. And I just really didn't appreciate that. So it was one of those things where I ended up changing our Sunday lifts to just being a recovery lift where we did some mobility and some different things from what the team needed after a Saturday game. I got them sweating a little bit, and then I would try to have like a heart-to-heart and explain to them that like, maybe not like dad mode, but like, listen guys, like you don't need to be like fucked up every weekend in college to like, whatever. Like I would try to leave with some like wisdom, whatever small bit that I had, and then we kind of get out of there. But yeah, that's at least my experience with college athletics and people asking me about like doing things hungover. I would definitely say no. If if you don't have to, don't do it. Like it's one of those things where like you should probably just have better life choices, and then we would all move accordingly. But what are your thoughts?
You said we're trying to get quality work in is the goal of what we're doing with this workout. And our old boss used to say this line: "There's capable and there's optimal." Right. So, are you capable of showing up to do a workout? They are. Are we going to get optimal performance out of them while they have 1.5 eyes open? I mean, eyes are just drooping. They're dragging. They're just reeking. Yeah. No, it's not going to be an optimal lift, right? So I look at it through, I guess, two lenses. One is I wouldn't call them the youth athlete because they're in collegiate sports, but compared to like Gen Pop, out of college, somewhat youth. If you have a choice, just rest. That's what your body needs to dehydrate it. So if you have the choice, if it's an optional workout, don't go. Yeah. If you have to show up, that's tough, man. That's tough. You had better hope that your coach has the same insight that Luke does. We're going to show up. We're going to get a little bit of movement in. We're going to get sort of a sweat worked up. We're going to do a lot of regen, soft tissue, stretching type work, maybe some cardio. I would maybe hit a very light circuit style lift. Yeah. Nothing crazy intense. We are not going to get 1 day stronger for having shown up. We are going to get 1 day less unhealthy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Should you? No. If you have to, hope that your coach is well informed enough to give you something light. To the adult population out there, I would say that same thing of do something light. And we've talked about it, I think it was the first episode, maybe the second. But, you have a choice to stay active and consistent. So whether that's doing some stretching, doing some walking or jogging or swimming or whatever it is you want to do, a hike, take the time you need to rest and then stay, working towards your goals. Do I think we should hit a 1 rep max on bench press while we're hungover? No, I don't think you should take a heavy bar out over your neck when you're dehydrated and barely hanging in. That's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. So capable, sure. Optimal, no. Drink water, go to bed, eat well, feel better, and show up the next day. That's my advice on it.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We'll move right into the second question. And this will be more about sleep tracking, so it kind of piggybacks into it. So another question, we kind of talked a little bit about sleep trackers and sleep monitoring, and I said that we could get into a whole tangent about it. And yeah, it was just kind of what our thoughts are on it, and if we think it's something that people should invest in. For me, I think that sleep tracking, you can really get into the weeds with it, and I think a lot of people overanalyze their sleep tracking, and it's already something that people are very like every coach is going to be like, you have to sleep 8 hours a day, and you have to, you know what I mean? It's like, got to get your vitamins, got to drink your milk and sleep 8 hours, right? Everyone that you've ever heard of in this business has talked about that. And I would also kind of like nudge back on that and say some people Like if you can get better quality sleep in 5 or 6 hours and it's quality REM sleep, you don't need necessarily that additional 2 hours. And that's probably an interesting take because a lot of people are, I mean, for sure, if you can get more sleep, like if you could get 8 to 10 hours or, whatever, yeah, that's great. I would never go against getting more sleep. But in a real world, a lot of people don't have those opportunities and can't sleep for 8 to 10 hours, and they have to wake up early for XYZ. So I would say the first thing is like sleep hygiene is important, and I would say what I mean sleep hygiene is like put your phones away an hour to 2 hours before, so you're not looking at blue lights before you go to bed. Try to get like blackout curtains if you can. Try to like unwind as much as you can in that last kind of stretch before bed so you're not up thinking about those things. You don't have blue light messing with you before you go to bed because there's a lot of research that's come out and said that if you're on screens and different things before bed, it messes with your REM cycles. So yeah, that's kind of my idea, as well as here, I'll let you talk, and then we'll kind of talk about the exact like real Whoop and whatever other brands there are and stuff.
I think you kicked it off well. I agree. Sleep hygiene is so important. I think it's often neglected. People are different sleepers. They're different beasts. For me, I have a very hard time winding down. My wife, on the other hand, she could sleep through a hurricane. She would have no problem with it. She switches off so quick, and I'm envious of that. I wish I could.
Yeah,
So everyone has different sleep needs. I think we need to start there. To your point, some people need 8 to 10 hours a day every day. Some people can thrive with 5 or 6. Um, First off, figure out what type you are. If you're chronically tired and you're getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night, well, yeah, you probably do need more sleep. I also want to be really specific that we could do an entire podcast around sleep and the
yeah,
importance of sleep. The goal and my hope is to focus in on sleep trackers specifically. So looking into that, I think if you're looking at sleep trackers, you need to figure out what kind of data do you want to gather. Are you trying to look at your stages of sleep? Are you trying to look at quantifying how many hours you get? Are you trying to look at what the stages are and what the quality is? Are you trying to build better habits? Or are you just trying to collect data? I think that's a kind of really important part because if you're not having any issues with sleep, and I mean, most people do, let's be honest, but if you're
yeah,
getting enough sleep and you feel well rested, what are we looking at a sleep tracker for? What data do you need? You're getting enough sleep. You feel rested and ready to attack the day. So what does it matter? So yeah, there are tons of different ways that you can track that. To my knowledge, Whoop is a big proponent of recovery. It's where they focus their areas that kind of sets them out against other activity trackers. I think Apple Watch tracks sleep. Personal opinion, I don't like how it tracks sleep. I don't think it tracks it very specifically, but
yeah.
personal opinion. Fitbit, I know, tracks sleep. Um,
The Aura Ring, I know, like the one that you wear on your finger. I've heard it's the most expensive, and the other thing too is like there's membership costs for all of these things, right? So it's a
yeah,
money grab.
so it's not just
So
the investment of the equipment, but it's also the membership that comes along with it. And I mean,
yeah,
there's different price points out there. Yeah, absolutely. There are.
yeah. So that's I think something to look into. I think they're like especially Whoop in the Aura Ring, like they're pretty, in my opinion, like similar in the way that they track the data and like quality of them. They're both like what you're getting for is good, but also you can really dive into them. And I've had athletes come up to me, and even adults, like, "Hey, my Aura Ring's off, and I'm not sleeping well, and whatever, and I only got 7 hours of sleep, and I usually get 9, so I can't work hard today." I've had that before. People have said that to me, and I'm like, okay, so we just have to stop, put all the brakes on because you slept a little shittier than you usually do. Like, heaven forbid, like the world's gonna end because of that, right? And people get like really specific and they get into their details of those kind of things, and that's where I think we get lost in that kind of stuff. So is there a place for it? Yeah, and I would track it with the teams and like maybe put it in like a questionnaire for the workouts, like before they see their workout, like, hey, how'd you sleep? And we just track that over time. Or if they have that data, I would not look at it right when you wake up, because if you look at it when you wake up, you already have this preconceived thing of like, oh, like I didn't sleep good, and like you could be feeling fine that day. You woke up and like you just felt like it was a normal day, and the tracker said that you didn't sleep very well. Versus, things like that. That's where I kind of get into the weeds and just say like, look at it at the end of the day, and you need to have like some consistency to it too. So if you've only had it for a week, what are the results you're going to get? You have no idea what you're really looking at. You have to kind of see that over a long term and like use it every day for 3 months, and maybe use it on a day that you are hungover, right? And see what your sleep was like when you were hungover to a normal day, or like some things like that. I think there has to be some more details in that, but
I think when you, again, our old boss was very focused in on data, and he had another good line that, I'll be honest, he might have borrowed the quote from someone else. I don't know if it's an original of his, because I think I've heard it many times over. But the whole point of collecting data is to help us make decisions. We cannot let that data make our decisions. It just informs them. I think a lot of times people will get so lost in the data that, it's like, well, I read this roadmap, and this roadmap said I should go 50 miles this way. It's like, yeah, but there's a cliff coming up. No, I have to go 50 miles this way. But there's construction. I have to go 50 miles. This was
yeah,
like look at where you're at on the road and try to figure out where you need to go. Don't just rely on Google Maps, or old school maps. Like, figure it out. Have some problem solving to what you're doing. Did you show up at the gym feeling ready to go? Yeah, I felt ready, but then I opened my app and I only got 5 hours. Fuck it, let's go. Let's go.
yeah, yeah,
Right? Or, similarly, well, the data says I'm ready to go for like a 1 rep max today, and I don't know, I'm a little bit groggy. Maybe I don't put a heavy bar over your fucking neck. Maybe I
yeah,
don't. Maybe I listen to how you, as the athlete, are telling me you feel rather than whatever this data says. Other thing to consider, to your point, you absolutely need to set a baseline. People buy
yeah,
these trackers and say, well, I'm way out of whack. This number looks terrible. This looks terrible. This looks terrible. It's like, stacked up against what? Against what you should be in an ideal world. Training doesn't exist in a vacuum. Life doesn't exist in a vacuum. Set your baseline, then figure out when you're actually fluctuating. Another thing too is, if you look at it through the lens of its data collection versus pass or fail, you're going to be far, far better off. Um, Quick aside here, but if we talk about a client that wants to lose weight, I'm a big fan of doing daily weigh-ins. Wake up, roll out of bed, step on the scale. Put that point on your graph and see where the trends are at, where things are going.
yeah,
It's not like, oh no, I'm up today, I'm losing. No, we just have to look at the trend across the week, or my step goal, right? Let's say I get 8,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 8,000, and then I have a 6,000 day. Oh, I failed this day. It's a weekly average I look at. Fuck one day. I care about the week.
yeah,
That doesn't matter to me. So if you look at it through the lens of data collection versus the data needs to tell me what to do, then I think it can really inform our decisions well. But people get so reliant on it, and they get paralysis by analysis. I stand there and look at the data and, well, I don't know what to do. It's like, how about you don't, like you said, don't look at it every day. Look at it Friday. Look at what the week said, the past week. How did it hold up against Friday? Or if you know you're going to obsess over, check it once a month. Check it at the very last day of the month.
yeah,
My trends from
yeah,
this month versus last. Well, I met my sleep goal 28 days this month, and I met it 15 days last month. What do you know? On the whole, we improved. That's what we're here to do.
yeah.
There's
No,
my
absolutely.
tangent.
I really like that to wrap up that question, and then we'll shoot for the last question that we got for the day. This kind of will transition us into our final thing we'll talk about. But I had another question about Planet Fitness and Planet Fitness style gyms. So like smaller places that have a limit on the amount of weight you can use. There's a lot of machines there, and even like cables and different attachments. And the question was, can I get a good workout at Planet Fitness? And can I get good training and quality training at a place like that versus like a bigger scale gym that has bigger weights and like a lot of free barbells and those kind of things, right? And more heavy scale equipment, I guess, would be kind of the differences there. So, yeah, just I guess we'll kind of shoot from there and go.
I tend to get long winded, and we have a whole lot to sink our teeth into on the back end. So I want to be as succinct as I can. Can you get a great workout in? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I get a good training program in? Depends. That's the shorthand of it. The question is, what are we training to do? Because that's going to dictate whether we can train there. Can we get a workout in? Sure.
Yeah.
They have all the equipment you can need for the most part, right? If we're there, again, there's a couple lenses that we can look at it through. I just want to stick with Gen Pop because I think that might be the most clear cut route. But if we're looking at weight loss, absolutely, that's what those gyms are designed to do. Get in there and hit a couple of machines and a little bit of free weights,
Yeah.
and then get some kind of cardio in that's not torturous for you. So, for a goal of weight loss, absolutely you can get training in. My goal is to get stronger. Absolutely, you can get a great workout in. You need to
Yeah.
figure out what are your sets and reps going to be to accomplish that goal. How can I not monopolize equipment? Because if you think you're going to get stronger just doing, I don't know, 10 by 3 on a seated chest press, how about we handle the free weights? Free weights, right? I mean, let's get some time under the barbell and the dumbbells. Really don't need
Yeah.
that cardio equipment for much. If the goal is hypertrophy, are you kidding me? You can get a great workout in, but the dumbbells only go up to 50. It's like, yeah, but again, if we're talking about isolation of muscle to grow it, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, spend all your day on machines, right? I mean, we've done it before. You have actually done it. I've just kind of done the modified version, but 30-30. If you hop on a seated chest press machine and do 5 sets of 30 on, 30 off with the goal to get about 15-ish reps,
Yeah.
that will wreck your chest. And you need 3 sets, maybe 5 to do it. I mean, it doesn't take much.
No, and you get a conditioning aspect of that, and you could, I mean, you could stay at the same machine and do that like 5 sets of 30-30 or 3 sets, and you're just cranking, and like by the end of that, that's probably 45 to 60 reps, if even more than that, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's an easy one if you're looking for like those kind of things. Hypertrophy, if we're looking for like just getting bigger muscles and just getting like stronger in small ways. Like you're not going to get a 1 rep max stronger in that aspect. If we're kind of going to that standpoint.
To be clear, I agree with you 100%. I want to be very clear. We're not advocating that you go and monopolize a chest press in a community gym for 5 minutes. I mean,
You're just there for like 20 minutes on.
yeah, I mean, don't monopolize the equipment, but you can absolutely get a great workout in. That was one thing. Other thing to
Yeah,
point. Yeah, when I say strength, I'm not talking 1 rep max strength. But again, if we're talking a Gen Pop person that has a very low training age, you might be very well able to hit a 1 rep max for,
yep,
or at the very least build a foundation of strength to
yes,
go to a
absolutely.
more specialized gym to really further test your 1 rep max strength. And we had talked about this a little while ago, Luke, in terms of if we had someone that spent 3 months training at a Planet Fitness with good form on free weights, doing some machines, really practicing their form in the gym, and they came to us for an in person more specialized experience. You can do a whole lot more with someone that has spent 3 months really dedicating themselves to a consistent program than
Yeah.
someone that has never picked up a weight and steps in. Because now Luke and I have to build that foundation. We don't mind it at all. That is our job as coaches, but it opens up the possibilities that you can do as the client.
Yeah, you're taking the training wheels off, right? Like you can just start
Absolutely.
riding the bike like right away versus like starting with the training wheels. That's kind of like a great point for that foundational part of the Planet Fitness, and yeah, it goes to your specific goals and your specific needs of what you want, and yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of transition into our next kind of topic, which is like specific training and sports specific training and what that kind of looks like and how that should look. So yeah, let's go. Let's dive into it.
Um, I have mixed feelings on this. So for those listening that are not in the field, as a coach on this side of the weight room, I think it's a pretty hot button issue in terms of sport specific training versus a generalized, healthy, balanced approach to training, meaning kind of filling all of your movement buckets. Do they squat, hinge, push, pull, lunge, carry? Do they get everything? Some people are going to just sell sport specific training, and other people are going to say, how does your actual squat look? How does your deadlift look? Can we move proficiently with moderate load? Um, I fall more on the side of I believe good training will serve the athlete better than me trying to be a skills coach. And by that I mean I'm going to use my own population as an example. Again, let's say we're talking about collegiate athletes or maybe young adults. Call it 20 to 25 ish. Again, the demographic I'm using as an example. Am I going to take a grappler out of the squat rack in between his set to have him hold me in guard for 30 seconds to get back under the bar and do his squat because that's sport specific. Absolutely fucking not. Because I'm going to wear out his 80 ductors and he's going to get under that barbell and he's going to fold like a lawn chair. Not actually, but again, I'm just putting nonsense in a program to make it look like it ties in. Now you could argue, can you do some kind of adductor med ball squeeze? Sure, yep, you can. I'm not going to take a guy out of the bench and hold up pads for him to hit in between his sets of bench. It's fucking pointless. I'm not a skills coach. I'll never pretend to be. You get good at the sport you do by practicing it. My job as a strength and conditioning professional is to know when to make you strong, know when to be able to help you get fast. At all times, try to make you resilient, so that you can go to your skill session to become a better striker and a better grappler. I'm of that belief. I want to know your thoughts, though. That's kind of my thoughts in a nutshell.
Clip it. That was a good one. Good one for me to post up for a little reel there. But yeah, I would say I'm right on the same page as you. Like, if I'm working with a golf team, I don't know. I suck at golf. I only go on golfing trips when I'm at bachelor parties or like big group events. So I'm not the guy to talk to about critiquing your golf swing, but I am the guy to talk to about rotational power or getting you stronger for the game of golf. Or baseball is another example, right? So it's like things like that have very technical components to them that I, as the strength and conditioning coach, don't need to know those things because the general qualities that we are building are the things that are going to carry over more than me having them try to swing with a weighted bat that I put on the cable machine or some of the weird things you've seen probably on like Instagram or social media where like people are trying to do things on Bosu balls and make it more unstable and try to say it's more sport specific, but sports are chaotic and there's really not a lot of ways from a strength standpoint that is going to make things more specific for their sport, in my opinion. I would say the biggest way for sport-specific training to work is the energy system or the conditioning stuff. All of that stuff can get really specific, and especially for every team and every sport has its own demands, right? Like, I'm not going to conditioning train the cross-country team the same way I'm going to train a soccer team or even a football team because the demands are a lot different. And we talked about that a little bit too with kind of the testing and like running miles for a football team when the average play is like 5 to 10 seconds, right? And then they have like 30 seconds off. Like the demands are way different and then it's not going to get you prepared for the sport. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I stand on it. Is there room for you to kind of get into some sports specific stuff maybe on the front end if it's mobility wise or I don't know, things that aren't like really the main meat and potatoes of the lift? Like yeah, I do if the coach thinks that they need to work on like bouncing on a foam pad, we could do some co-contraction stuff maybe like for the first 5 minutes or whatever, and like as we're warming up that might be some stuff where if you want to do some hand-eye coordination stuff or I don't know, like you know what I'm saying, Dave? Does that kind of make sense to you, or what are your thoughts on that?
It does. What you just touched on there, right? A skills coach comes to you and says, my guys need to do X. And it's our job as a strength and conditioning coach to say, do they really? Maybe they do. Maybe it's true.
Yeah.
Maybe they think that, but it's actually something else, right? Like we've had parents come to us and say, my athlete needs power. And it's like, respectfully, they need strength to be able to produce that power. They're not ready for power yet. There's a preface to it. So it's our job to kind of figure that out. I will say, of course, you have to respect job security. If a skills coach comes to you and says, I need X, you have to deliver X. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times strength coaches think that they're skills coaches and skills coaches think that they know about strength and conditioning. And it's like, there's a reason we're specialized in our fields. We know more than one another. We have to respect that and understand that and learn from each other, not try to coach over each other. That's just a philosophical tangent separate.
Yeah.
But to your point, the best way for a strength coach to get an athlete ready for sport is to just watch that sport. I mean, watch your athlete doing what they do, right? Because, I mean, a middle school football practice is going to run very different than a collegiate one. Those are very different demands and very different rates of force on the body. Um, that was one thing. The other thing is, when you talk about sport-specific training, what I think it comes down to is absolutely energy system work is massively critical. They all need to have a good base of strength and power. That just carries over in almost any sport. But again, to your point, resilience is another bucket to be filled as a strength coach. In terms of what areas are often overlooked, what buckets are not filled, what areas are kind of chronically tight for the athlete. What do they need more stretches for? What do they need to build? Where do they need to build mobility, and where do they need to build stability? How can I fill in so that they don't have any holes in their game, physically speaking? But you have to be careful with that. Again, not to get too far down a rabbit hole, but as strength coaches, we don't want to overcorrect. I think a lot of times, I think the good example is Cressy Sport Performance. He's, for the people listening, the go-to guy in all things strength and conditioning for baseball. And I don't know if it was his like social media that I heard it on, or it could be a different place. I'm certainly not trying to put words in anyone's mouth, but the idea of, a pitcher comes to you and says, and you see them, you say, well, they have terribly uneven shoulder mobilities. I have to really stretch out their other side, and I need to build stability on this side. It's like, let's be very careful with that.
Yeah.
You're talking about a very elite athlete here that performs outstandingly well. And, the common sense would say, well, he needs to be symmetrical. I need to balance him out. And it's like, no. That asymmetry is why he's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
Or you as a kicker, right? What if I said, well, you have one leg that's significantly stronger than the other. I need you to do single leg presses so we can balance it out. No.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
You're an asymmetrical athlete. And I mean, we're asymmetrical people, but your specialization lies in the fact that you did so many reps on this one side that it is so much better than the other side. So a lot of coaches, I think have a tendency to say, well, we have to address this hip mobility issue. And it's like, what hip mobility issue? He's a phenomenal kicker. He can get that ball. Wait, we don't need to fix his hips on his non-kicking side. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's good. He's good. So I think focus on resilience. How can I keep my athletes in the game? How can I keep them from running out of gas in their tank aerobically or anaerobically? And then how can I keep them strong and powerful? And if they're not, how can I get them there without overlooking those first two? That's our job, as simply put as it can be put.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement there, and it's kind of interesting diving into all this because it is specific to even positions that you play on a team.
Oh yeah,
and specific to like the coaching staff and how you run like your program and what kind of plays you have. So you could go into so many different specifics for like, let's say a men's soccer team runs their offense a lot different than another team does, and it's very much like press, like you're always playing defense, like you're always like really on top of somebody. That could be basketball too, or you could name a lot of different sports, and it's very high intensity and high pace. So like their conditioning is going to be a little bit different than another team that really tries to slow the game down and slow the process down and try to kind of grind you down by really taking their time methodically and really slowing it down. So that even from that standpoint, or a kicker is going to have a lot different specificities than a middle linebacker, or a goalie, for example, than a forward, right? I don't know, things like that, where there are a lot of different positions for teams, and there's a lot of different nuances to all of the sports and athletics, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because you can really get into it and really make a difference in kind of how you train people individually, but as a group, and I don't know, there's a lot to get into, and I love it, man, and I love like this kind of talk. So
yeah, there was one other point I wanted to touch on. I was trying to be fully present, and I was listening to you, so I'll be honest, I sort of lost bring my point back. Okay. So you and I have experience working with youth athletes. When I say youth, I'm talking about 12 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids that have, lifted all through that time, some that have never stepped foot in a gym. And one thing to those that are listening that are parents that have a youth athlete of their own that are looking to do strength and conditioning, it's a pet peeve of mine. Maybe it is of yours too. But when someone comes in and says, I want the most sport-specific program for my kid, they're ready to go D1 tomorrow. You look at the kid, and he's 12. He's as green as can be. Never set foot in a weight room. And you're like, right. Um, I think we have to understand that when it comes to sport specific training, the young athletes do not need it for the most part. I don't want to speak in absolutes, but for the most part, they really don't need it. I would even
Yeah.
argue high school doesn't much need it.
Yeah.
Collegiate, I think we can start to lean into that. At the professional level, yeah, there should be some kind of
Absolutely.
nuance to your program that ties it in to what you're doing beyond just basic strength and conditioning. I'm not saying I don't believe in sport specific training. I'm saying that I think it's overhyped. I think it's definitely oversold. And I think that the subtleties with which it is executed are so subtle that most people are not going to pick up on it. A good coach is going to highlight it. And when you and I worked at the place we did, before, it's like part of it is the salesmanship, right? How does this tie into, be it the game of hockey or football
Yeah.
or basketball? You should be able to highlight how what we do in the weight room will carry over, and at that higher level, more things tie in. But the thing is, at that higher level, the athlete is so specialized and so good at what they do that hopefully they have enough trust in you to say, "I don't worry about it, coach. I trust that you have it under control." That's a really good feeling. But you should still be able and ready and eager to explain why that program that you put together will get them there, without having them do things that just sort of mimic and look like the sport. How do the energy systems tie in? How does this strength work tie in to protect you and keep you in the game? Um, so yeah, to those listening, know when it's time to get specialized with your kids' training. It's not when they're setting foot in the weight room first. And any coach that's selling that, you might make them have certain areas that lack mobility, or they might
Yeah.
lack stability in other. Right, we're choosing which buckets to fill in movement and robbing others very early in the training process, and that I just can't get behind.
It's a skill, just like everything else we've kind of talked about. This, it's strength is a skill, like your sport is, and when they're both together equally, then they can kind of help each other out more. But it usually takes a longer time because a lot of people have been playing their sports for a long time, and a lot of people their training age is a lot lower, and then you usually are trying to play catch up versus like the other way around. And you can see it too, where some people have been in the weight room way too long and they care too much about lifting weights, and then they're not doing the things outside of there to get better at their sport. And you see them on the field of play, and those people are stiff as a board, and they can't react the same ways and different things, right? I think there's definitely not just the one way of looking at that too. But
We could do a whole nother episode on, like early specialization, the long-term athletic development, build out. And we will definitely save that for another time. But I think to your point, it comes down to, physical literacy. Can they move well in all different planes and ranges of motion, right? Whether it's lifting or sport. I mean, for young athletes, get them in as many different sports as you can. Let them just explore movement so that they can move well and build that skill of strength. And you will have someone that moves so much better than someone who just specializes in the weight room or just specializes in their one sport. It just comes down to get your kid involved in as much movement and healthy physical activity as you can.
yeah, and that seems to be harder and harder these days. So keep doing those things, right? Keep trying to educate young coaches, educate athletes, educate parents on why just moving and having fun and playing is important. And I think you are a liability if you don't strength train, and you are a liability to your teams as you keep moving ahead. Like football, people unfortunately get killed every year, and they have neck issues and they have problems and different things. And I definitely believe that strength training can help develop those pieces of high contact collision sports and things that can get super dangerous. So yeah,
If you're not doing strength training and you're in a very physical contact sport, whether it be football or any sport, you're building everything on, what is it, a house of cards.
house cards.
You're
Yeah,
building on everything terribly unstable and you're leaving it to chance. I would encourage you, yeah, if you're at the higher levels and you're not balancing what you do out with some kind of strength, start to balance that out. To Luke's point, he's right.
yeah, and I think that's a good way to wrap up. Please, we are coming in new. Like, subscribe, follow. Shoot me some DMs. Shoot Dave some DMs if you got any questions. The questions have been awesome. They've been fun, and we're gonna keep doing it, baby. We're gonna keep doing it. Episode 4 is your wrap. Ready and break. See you guys.